So really interesting story. I was out at the Global Summit and went to a presentation that NASA, I think it is a woman that's in your department, but she talked about...
My subcontractor, Jackie Morey, yeah.
So I heard this presentation about what NASA's doing with VR for the Mars mission, and it was super fascinating. So then the irony is on LinkedIn, I stumbled into Peggy, and she was actually deeply involved in the project. So that's a lot of fun. So that's why she's here. So leading innovations in technology, VR games, and AI. She's a senior research scientist for the Smart Information Flow Technologies. For social benefit, 15 years plus research in the industry. She's secured $8 million plus in research funding, 50 plus peer-reviewed publications, and 3 patents. She's a recipient of multiple NASA, DoD, and private grants ranging from virtual reality to support astronauts in future long-duration exploration class missions to Mars, to AI for psychometrics, to socio-linguistic for psychological health, and social intelligent virtual agents and avatars. So I want to welcome Peggy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. All right, so I go forward. So I wanted to first thank my sponsors, NASA. I have a great team at a small business called Smart Information Flow Technologies. I'm also working with a subcontractor, Jackie Morey, from All These Worlds. So sometimes, in order to get a good perspective, we have to travel really far away. So I'm going to start off with a 250 million mile perspective. Here's NASA's vision of human manned exploration of Mars. So in about 2030, we have a low energy window where Earth is very close to Mars, and we're going to send people there and back. So right now, we've got a lot of history of humans in space. In fact, ISS, International Space Station, has been orbiting Earth for a long time now. So what do the astronauts actually do in space as a way to learn what we might do on Mars? They do a lot of maintenance work. For example, Don Pettit is changing a water filter. They do EVAs, extravehicular activities. They do some maintenance work on themselves. Karen Nyberg is checking her ocular structure to make sure that the microgravity hasn't changed her ocular function. Nicole Stott is doing she's installing the mouse house, so they do a lot of science experiments, and that's actually one of the more meaningful events that happen in space. They all love their science experiments. Cosmina Korzun is installing the Russian greenhouse. Here's Dan Burbank. They do a lot of photography, both for data collection and just for fun. So right now on station, we've got this big, beautiful cupola. I don't want to be in your way. Here. So we've got this big, beautiful cupola where they do a lot of photography. Here's some northern lights. And we do a lot of educational outreach. So we do, the NASA astronauts do educational outreach with elementary schools. We fly their ant farms and things up there. And they take care of themselves. So exercise is really important to maintain their muscles and bones. They, of course, prepare meals and feed themselves. They give each other haircuts. Right now on ISS, the mission is generally about 6 months long. And most of all, they still maintain the relationships, the social relationships they have at home. So they're still fathers and parents and sisters. And so they have to maintain those ties even though they're very far away. What they don't do, can anyone guess what they don't do on ISS? They don't fly the ship. Mission Control flies it, along with a couple of other Earth-based mission control centers. And that's because right now, ISS is really close. It's actually 220 miles. You know, you could see it with your naked eye on a clear night. There's virtually no comm delay. They could call down at any time and call for pizza. Delivery is another problem. So far, yeah. Well, there has been a 3D printer, yeah. But that's still, you know, that's just production. It's not delivery. Earth to the moon, that's a little bit farther at 1.2 light seconds. Going to a near-Earth asteroid, still a bit further at 6.5 light seconds one way, but you could still kind of carry a conversation. For Mars, at its closest, we're talking about 3 minutes one-way delay. At this point, you can't hold the phone and wait until somebody responds 6 minutes afterwards. And for most of the time, it's going to be it's actually 22 minutes delay one way. The current reference mission is that we're going to spend 6 months to get there, 18 months on the surface to wait until we get back to another low energy window, and then another 6 months back. So this is a 2.5 to 3 year mission, longest that we've ever experienced. For the first 3 weeks, they're going to travel on the Orion, and this used to be a spherical, but you could see this is the mock-up at Johnson Space Center. Right now it looks kind of spacious, but for scale, this is how big it is. We're going to have 4 to 6 astronauts in there. Once you pack them in, once you pack in all the equipment, it's getting a bit tight. And for the 6-month long-haul flights, this is the Mars transfer vehicle, and they're primarily going to be in this part of the vehicle. So to give you an idea of how big, it is about 10 meters in diameter and 11.7 thick. And right now, our history of spaceflight is back in the Skylab days of Polyakov for 437 days, and then you might have seen in the news that Scott Kelly just came back after a 1-year mission. So this is substantially shorter than our envisioned 900-day mission. And while we have this beautiful window right now on station, most of the trip, you're going to be looking at this, literally nothing. So there are a lot of stressors on a trip like this, psychological stressors, your environment, your confinement, the lack of natural lighting. There's no sense of time or day or weather or seasons, no changes in temperature, and there's a lack of privacy, including audio privacy potentially. And a lot of social stressors as well. There's moments of high and low workload. There's always going to be performance demands. You're going to have to be in the tin can with 4 to 5 of your best buddies for a very long time. So there's constant exercise of willpower, and you just have to be very emotionally mature about this. Not that our astronauts are not, but it's continued practice of that, and there's no other outlets. And then, of course, the biggest challenge for us is the communication delay. And there's prior evidence of psychological deficits due to spaceflight. For example, even in Skylab 4 days in the 70s, we had a day of mutiny where we had a group of astronauts who felt that they were overtaxed, overworked, ground was not listening to them, and they turned off all the radios for 1 day. So this is very different from the way that we're going to work in Mars, because right now we rely heavily on Earth, but it's going to be a completely different paradigm. Other evidence is in Antarctic research, where we have groups who are overwintering for 9 months at a time, and there's lots of evidence about subgroup formation, minor disagreements kind of escalating really quickly. So social stressors will be a big part of this. So what we're doing in this program, in this research project, is looking at social monotony and sensory monotony. Not sensory deprivation, we're not blindfolding them, but they're going to be exposed to the same things over and over for a long time. So what's our approach? Well, we know we can't make light move faster. So what can we do to enhance asynchronous communication? That is communication that's not real time. The nature of that communication is going to change. We know that communication, even going back to really old technology now, caveman days, they pointed and they grunted, and that was part of their communication even before language. So we know that objects, environments can be reincorporated. So our research question is, can we use virtual environments and virtual objects to help individuals communicate in socially meaningful ways? Today, and thank you, Shayna, because now I could go through these really fast. We know virtual reality is this, but it actually originated like even back to the 30s, the first one being the Link trainer in Binghamton, New York. And then Ivan Sutherland has often been associated with virtual reality early in the 60s. And Jaron Lanier coined the term in the 80s. And in fact, there has already been attempts to commercialize this product, this idea. Nintendo Virtual Boy, I don't know if any of you owned, in the 90s, it didn't work. I mean, it did work, but it didn't gain the amount of market share, I guess they wanted. And so there's been a lot of talk, and there was a lot of hype in the 80s and 90s. Oh, virtual reality is going to take over the world. It's going to be great. And then it didn't. So what's keeping that from repeating again? What happened was that it remained in large institutions. It was too expensive. And so here's NASA's helmet back in the 80s. But actually, this is how it looks like now, and we're still using that. Well, they're upgrading now. I was just there. I wish I should have taken a picture. But so NASA's currently in using virtual reality, and they've been using it since before the space station, because they had to train the astronauts before there was a station, for doing spacewalks and for doing the safer. It's a little jetpack in case they get untethered, and then they can fly back. So in August 2012, Palmer Luckey started this Kickstarter, and now we've got this booming excitement in this industry. And even actually before the Kickstarter, we started, NASA came to us and said, we have this problem. Do you have any ideas about how we can potentially address this? So we looked at using VR. We looked at existing technologies back then, back in 2011, 2012. And we interviewed a whole lot of astronauts and psychological support. We tested the system at the Human Exploration Research Analog, which is this facility that does short duration simulations, Mars or planetary exploration simulations. And then we went to another site. It turns out that Hawaii kind of looks like Mars. So this is not where you want to go for vacation, with your spouse. This is a part of Hawaii where there's not much life. It's at 8,500 feet in elevation. It's very isolated. It's quite treacherous in terms of all the lava tubes and stuff. So we've got 6 astronauts in this facility. We just finished the 1-year experiment. So they were in there for 12 months, 6 individuals. And when they went out to do EVAs, extravehicular activities, they had to wear mock spacesuits. And so we studied, so we deployed a VR system to see whether that would help connect them socially with their friends and family outside and foster collaboration. And we compared this data with another group who was in the same dome previously for 8 months. And so we scoured the literature, and we found things that work on Earth that also can be translated into VR. And some of the things were freedom of choice, giving them the ability to choose whatever they could do, because that's not something that the astronauts have a lot of choice about now. And especially for a long duration, that will be very important. Nature scenes, weather, seasons, plant life, that's all really important. And ability for creative expression, another important thing. A variety of social interactions, not just being cordial with your co-workers, but also, being able to have different social contexts to kind of practice those interpersonal skills, as well as just as a relief. Being able to send virtual care packages from your family. Little surprises are always a good hit, always popular. So we created a open simulator version, because this was in 2012, prototype to test, and we enabled them to log in. So even though we had a communication delay, they weren't able to log in with people on Earth. And actually, they didn't even have internet connection. We purposely cut everything off so that it simulated very much how ISS works. If they wanted information, they would have to email mission support and asked them to like send me these research papers. And so it was kind of a long process. And so they couldn't pick up the phone to call family members. They could just email directly. And we created this environment that allows them to log in, make recordings of their avatars doing various activities, and then their family members to come and log in and see them and then respond with their avatars and their actions. And we created a bunch of environments, campfires, nature scenes, a lot of nature scenes, the various vacation spaces, so historical sites, fantastic, meaning, fictional places that they could visit. We created about 30 or so different islands. Winter activities, they could make snow angels, they could upload pictures of their family members. They could go skating, they could even go skating with their friends. We recruited a local artist in LA, Christine Schumacher, who was kind enough to upload all of her work so that we can have a virtual art exhibit. There's a club lounge area. They could rearrange the furniture and have a dance party. There was a Thanksgiving event where each individual can make a recording of themselves talking about what they were thankful for. And then when you hit all the discs, it looks like they're all sitting together at a table talking about what they were thankful for, even though it was all done asynchronously. Hometown area, we had so you could sit on the porch and enjoy the soundscape. So sound is really important. We had church bells. We had kids playing in the background. We even had an ice cream truck. The problem is we didn't actually make the ice cream truck, so the subject said, "Where's the ice cream truck? We kept hearing about the ice cream truck, and we didn't get any ice cream." That was a fail on us. So we just finished this study where we've done one preliminary analysis on 6 months of the data, and we found that, again, this 12-month group compared to the 8-month group before who didn't have a virtual reality system for interacting, they reported better social connection with their family members and friends who were using it with them. They found increased social satisfaction. They perceived more closeness to Earth in general, reduced stress, and changes in the perception of time. This is important because during times of high stress, extreme high stress, or like boredom, people tend to perceive time as going very slowly. Some of our future work, I just got a grant to take the lessons learned to apply this to other isolated individuals. Specifically, I'm looking at in the healthcare sector, those with communication disorders, because that is very much parallel to the communication problems that our most elite individuals are going to have in space. For the general industry, we certainly need more content creation tools. We need more intuitive interfaces. But that's what I'm most excited about, applying what we learn to health and wellness. And that's me. That's me. And that's the end of my talk. Thanks.